So just heading out this morning down to the honey house. We're busy just finishing up the year actually. I have Carrie busy doing a bunch of maintenance projects. So we're just getting to the end of that, so she'll be done by the end of this week. So that pretty much brings to an end of the honey season. Today, as soon as I get back to the honey farm, I'm going to, this morning I'm going to gather up, I'm going to gather up some bee samples and send it off to the bee lab in Winnipeg just to get a background level on what I have going on in my colonies. I have a pretty good feel about everything and how everything's set up. Hey pup. It's just I like to, as we're going through and we're setting our colonies up and we're predicting on what's going to happen, more information at hand is better than less. We can make better decisions. Hey pup, come here. It's me. Morning, you. Did you just wake up? It's easier to make better decisions on with more information at hand, and I just feel that by assessing my colony and my colony strength, I have a pretty good idea where they're at. But I just want to have some background information on actual condition of these colonies, and I do that with more information. So that information is going to be viral levels, nosema counts, just stuff like that. So I'm going to gather up that sample. I'm just going to grab a few things here, but I'll gather that sample up this morning, and then I'm going to head into Winnipeg to take that sample in, conduct some business, and we're meeting with the Canola Growers Association. Just meeting on some association business. So it's going to be a busy day. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to take a sample from the colonies, but now because I have to take a sample from the entrance, I'll be able to access the bottom of the cluster to grab those bees. And I'm assuming most of these bees right now are winter bees. So it's fairly consistent for the bees within the colony. So I'm going to take my bee sucker so I can reach into the entrance. And I want to make sure I have to be able to get these bees alive. So I have to be fairly gentle with them. So I'll be collecting them in this little canister here. So I'll be reaching to the bottom of the cluster within the entrance, grabbing the live bees. They'll be accumulating down to the bottom. And then I'm going to put the bees into one of these little bee packages for shipment. So I'll just put them in here, give them a little bit of like a wet sponge or something like that to keep them going. And then that'll get them into Winnipeg, and they should be able to give them enough time to be able to take the bees and process them, do what they need with them. So we'll see if this works. What I want to do is I just want to take the bees, some of them will be easy to grab, some of them are way in there. I want to take the sample from the bottom of the cluster just so I'm getting a good representation of where the best I can get. And I'm assuming this time of year, the cluster, regardless where the bees are within the cluster, they're all pretty much the same winter type bees. So by grabbing from the entrance and underneath the cluster, I'm assuming I'm grabbing a good representation of all the bees within the clusters here. So let's see if this works. Okay, so I have my sample, and it's actually worked really well. So I don't know how many bees that would be. How many would that be? 300? About 300 bees or so. So I'm going to take another sample, about another 2 samples, just to make sure I give them enough bees. I think they want 500 or more. And they look in good shape. And they're pissed. So I'm just going to now put it into my cage. So we put together just a simple little box cage here so they can breathe. I pity the guy who has to open up this in the lab, but I guess they're prepared for it. So yeah, I'm gonna put the live bees directly into here. Ooh, this is gonna be...
Make sure you shake them up.
This is the tricky part. Whoop. How is the guy supposed to... I pity the guy that has to open that up. Unless they knock him out of CO2. So the bees are in good shape. That's good. I'm going to take another 2 samples just to make sure he's got enough bees. And then I'm going to go straight to Winnipeg and give them what they need. I'm just going to put this last little bit of the sample in here. Try not to get stung. Can you keep these guys tapped down? First time's a charm, right? Whew. And that is deadly. You need carbon dioxide or something to... Got stung?
Yep, again.
Uh-oh. Okay, so there's our 100 to 200 bee sample. And we're going to ship it off to Winnipeg right now. The bees will be in good shape. And I will be sending it through. So we just have this diagnostic lab set up in Winnipeg now, which is quite exciting because we can handle nosema counts, species identification, the mite counts is, you know, I'll get them to do that anyways, I guess. AFB detection, antibiotic resistant, but that's, you need larvae for that. AFB or EFB detection in adult bees, I'll get them to test that. Then I'm going to get them to, what I'm sending them in for is basically for the viral counts, the black cell queen virus, deformed wing virus, sac brood virus, Israeli acute paralysis virus, and Kashmir bee virus. So I'm going to get them to do all this in Winnipeg. This is what I'll get them to do, is on the list here, what they can achieve in Winnipeg, and we'll see what our counts are. So I'm just on my way out from Winnipeg. Stopped in at Tim Hortons to grab a coffee. Just to let you know, I pressed play, or record I guess, on my phone before I started driving, so I am speaking hands-free. So I slipped into Winnipeg just to drop off my bee sample. Slipped around to a few other places just to conduct some farm business. But I stemmed the majority of this work around a meeting that was held today. The Manitoba Beekeepers Association sat down with the Manitoba Canola Growers Association, and we held a meeting on just breaking the ice, I guess. Just that initial meeting, just to spark up some conversation between the two associations. In a sense, I'm looking for collaborative efforts that we can put our efforts towards, which benefit both associations. More specifically to the knowledge research transfer program that we are developing in Manitoba here. So we sat down with the Manitoba Canola Growers Association just to ask for their support. We're coming from the angle where there's a lot of changes within agriculture. Our landscape is changing. Just realizing that agriculture, in a sense, has moved forward. Agriculture has progressed, took a step forward with the tremendous amount of industry investment. Agriculture has changed especially over the last 10 years. Except for the beekeeping industry. The beekeeping industry, in a sense, has been left behind. It's like we've almost been forgotten. And as everything is changing, we're as beekeepers, we're having trouble adapting to the changing landscape, to all the modern day farming practices. And that's greatly affecting our hive health. So we're establishing this tech transfer program just to try to create a function to help beekeepers manage this transition, just to help us adapt to all these changes in agriculture. We're not trying to change anything within agriculture. We're just trying to be at the table. We're trying to welcome conversation, just invite in support to help beekeepers, in a sense, catch up to the rest of agriculture. Just help us focus on disease problems, nutrition problems, chemical exposure issues, management issues, climate change or whatever, weather, just all these issues facing beekeepers as we're having trouble keeping our hives going. We're inviting their support in to help us manage these issues. And it's significant because our beekeeping industry, especially with the Canola Growers Association, their producers benefit greatly from our bees being in the countryside. There's value we can put on our pollination service to the canola growers, and that's $150 million just within Manitoba. And the beekeeping community doesn't see any monetary value in return for that. So it's in the canola growers' best interest to help us with our problems, and with a healthier bee industry, our bees will be there to provide that direct benefit to Manitoba producers. Our beekeeping industry hinges on the ability for our canola producers to produce a big crop. We need these canola producers to be able to manage their crops effectively, to be able to grow the crops, to be able to make the money, but to provide the flowers for beekeepers to buy us our livelihood. So it's in the best interests for both associations to be sitting down at the same table to be able to collaborate on all types of initiatives. So that is a hell of a lot of rambling. I'm not sure if any of that made sense.